Welcome with me, Jen, from letithappencoaching.com for video 4 of 21 days journey home introduction. I do those videos to tell you a little bit more about my personal journey, my journey home, in order to introduce you as well to my new offering, 21 days journey home, which is all about finding that inner space, reconnecting to that inner space that gives you that inner security, confidence, so that you can actually navigate ups and downs of life with more joy, more ease, knowing that life is life, but when you connect to your center, when you are in your core, when you know yourself, when you raise your awareness, your consciousness, and you have some tools as well to navigate your emotions as well, it becomes way more manageable and also fun, interesting and meaningful, and so on. So today in this video, I would like to talk about another 2 big turning points for me that helped me with my journey home, and also just to say that journey home is also not only just within, but in my case also physically, because as we know, your outside world is a reflection of your inner world. So I anyway knew that I needed to be home within first to be home without, so in the physical world. It's always an inside out job for sure. So yeah, I also just, oh my god, like 2 minutes and a half, but I still haven't started. No, yes, I have started. And also just I have, for me, I had a big contemplation, and I do another video on that about honoring. And it's true that, it's so close to my heart to talk about my journey, to talk about the journey home, that I really want to share, and honor my journey, and by that also sharing in the most complete way my journey. And so it made me contemplate, okay, what does that mean to honor? Again, I will try to give you as much as I can into the big, thing, but obviously it's non-exhaustive because I cannot explain you my life basically in 10 minutes. Does that mean that the challenge is to do that video in 10 minutes? So I better get to it because it's like 7 less minutes left. I'm kidding. So for me, another turning point was going to London, knowing that at that point I was working for big, in the European headquarters of a big American multinational. And that was part also of like a vision I had. I really wanted to work for a multinational from the inside, and before I was a partner of a multinational, but not directly in. So here it was like, I gained that experience. I worked for French and Spanish market, which also helped me expand my Spanish experience. And why I'm saying that, because that makes sense as well for the future, and also for you to understand that in every experience, even though the work I didn't like it, you have always something you can take out of every experience, and that is eventually going to help you for the future. But it's about having that positive outlook, that even though something might not be what you want, there is always some aspect that are positive. It's about seeing them, picking them up, and nurturing that and moving on. So I, based also on that job that I didn't like, I was like, okay, maybe, like in my quest of desperately being happy, like professionally, and finding my place really, I say, okay, maybe I need a stronger connection with the product. So I said, okay, I would like to work in fashion because I love fashion. So maybe if I work with a product that I like, I'm gonna like my work more. And also at that time, I was living in Lausanne, in Switzerland. I had, a comfortable life, let's say. So very beautiful flat in the center of the city, a car, going on holidays. I'm not saying that to boast about my life, but just saying that I was comfortable. And it's true that one of my dreams was always to live in a big city. And I do remember on a trajectory on the train to work, one of my co-workers said to me, well, I think you really should go and have an experience abroad. I was like, no, that's fine. I wasn't really happy, and satisfied with, like my professional life, but somehow I was like, I was still comfortable. So I nearly dropped the project, and I'm saying that because being in a comfort zone can be comfortable, but sometimes it can prevent you from just stretching yourself, challenging yourself, because you're just good, nice, okay, cool. And when you don't challenge and stretch yourself, there is no evolution. Now, I'm saying that looking to the beautiful moon outside, and really, life is always, at least for me, I mean, if something needs to happen, life is going to move you. And but so at that point I was like, no, that's fine. And then what happened is that I was like, okay, maybe I want to work in fashion. And I'm never so for a long time I have not watched the news, and so not watched TV, not necessarily took the newspaper. And like those newspapers that you have in the train, the 20 minutes, and that are free and that they are giving you, and sometimes you're having like people left all around. And so I took one morning, and that morning, so I don't know why, and there was like a small ad, but literally like a tiny ad, and that ad was from Condé Nast College of Fashion and Design. And for you who doesn't know who is Condé Nast is a big publication company that has Vogue, Vanity Fair, GQ magazines, for example, and they are very well connecting in the fashion space. And they created a school in the center of Soho, in the center of London. And for some reason, I saw that ad, and I applied, and I went through the process, and I got in. And so it was in London, and it was it. I didn't really think about it. And funny thing as well, but nothing is left to coincidence. It's all synchronicities, or it's just that your soul knows so much better that it just like do the moves. Like, and for example, I left my flat as if I was not gonna come back. And I didn't say anything to anyone, because when I went back from Australia, I said I would go to Spain, and I never did. And so that time I was like, okay, I'm not gonna say to everybody that I'm gonna stay in London, and then like 4 months later come back. So I didn't say anything. However, I sub-rented my flat. In a way, I packed my stuff to stay there. I didn't know. It has never been as long as living in a big city has been a dream of mine, I never had London specifically in my mind, you know, and so it just happened, and then London for more than 7 years. Initially, I thought I would go for a couple of years, make some experience, and come back. It was more than 7 years. I cannot even explain you in this video like the experience it has been for me. It has definitely been a roller coaster for 7 years. I don't think I have ever had a dull moment in London. But for the main aspect and one of the turning points as well is that, so again, I'm in a neutral country, you know, not my language, not my, no one I knew, really, like, not really, like no one I knew, because I was doing a course, it make a bridge, which makes it always easier to have, you know, like, to know that you will anyway meet some people, and so in a school and as a student, and so in that, yeah, so London, it has been like me starting from scratch, because I wanted to work in fashion. Fashion is this is based on my experience, a very peculiar industry, very specific. Like if you haven't worked in fashion before, that just like you need to start from scratch. And I had experience before in Switzerland, you know, it was, you know, it was a ride what I was doing, and like no, they didn't care. You haven't worked in fashion, you start as an intern. So literally, I was paid like £25 a week, and of course, you know, so all my life changed because, you know, I flat shared, I started as an intern. My first salary was 20,000 pounds a year, yet I knew I wasn't in London for the money. I knew I was in London for the experience. And I'm going to repeat that because that's very important. When you know why you are doing what you are doing, it changes everything. It helps you navigate. So just for you to have an idea, like when I was in Switzerland, I had the easiness, like the money to go on holidays, I want to buy a brand, I buy a brand, a bag, you know, like whatever, and suddenly I'm in London. I'm not earning like much money. I'm flat sharing. The city is what the city is, which is like very competitive, very individualistic. You have also beautiful aspects about London, and I just knew, okay, it's not about the money, it's about the experience. So in London, I became a woman. I started to know myself more in that, me as a woman in relationships. I became an entrepreneur. So after the disastrous experiences I got in London, which for me have been everything but nurturing, it has been like horrible for me to be working in fashion. It has been, so I have worked in London, I have worked in luxury fashion, I worked in sport, I have worked in cosmetic, and it hasn't been nice experiences. I haven't been treated very well, to be honest. And you know, London, you can be in the street from one day to another. Have been made redundant. Redundant, it means like when they are firing you for economic reasons or whatever. So it's not job based, like that is a problem, is another thing. And in general, financial issues, or that the position is cancelled. And so it has made me learn as well, you know, about the cultures, like different cultures, like different industries, different company sizes, because then I also worked with startups. And then after 5 years in London, I started my business. And it's not that I always knew I was gonna have my business. I just didn't know how, when, what, which is pretty complicated to start a business. And life literally closed doors. I might come back to that eventually in another video more specifically, but literally close doors and open new ones. And I'm always saying, when the student is ready, the teacher appears in many forms. And it's what happened. It's literally what happened. Coaching came to me. I entered, like, suddenly, wow, a massive online well-being, personal development industry opened. And I started, like, figuring out what could be my business, and 6 months later I launched Let It Happen. So I became a woman, I became independent, I became a business owner, not an entrepreneur, because I believe I've always been an entrepreneur. And you know, when I'm saying I work with entrepreneur, for me, I work with entrepreneur minds, you don't need to have a business for that. You know, it's a way of seeing life, of living life. It's an attitude, mostly. And so that has been, you know, London, what happened in London, all the experiences accumulated, the knowledge, the wisdom, the ups, lows, downs, creating my business. All of that has been, like, London in itself, a huge turning point for me to know myself as a person, as a woman, as a business owner, as a coach, as a mentor. Mentor maybe came a little bit afterwards. And the other turning point is, like, I do remember approximately one year after launching officially my business, so September 2020, we went through the massive, you know, like, world change that we know, and my needs were starting to change as well. I knew I wanted to, it has been, like, in my head for a lot of time, like, that I wanted to live in another city, but I didn't know where to go, knowing that, you know, in general, I was more reactive than proactive, in a sense that sometimes something, like, there was an opportunity, it really happened me and I went for it. But, you know, when nothing is really there, like, it means that you need to do a proactive move or choice. And for me, that was very difficult. And I didn't know where to go. I always had Barcelona in mind, but for some reason I wasn't sure. And I knew, and I'm gonna tell you more about that, why I wasn't sure. And now I know why it happened that way, because I needed to be prepared to be in Barcelona. So the thing is that I was already, like, with changing, like, my needs were changing, and I was thinking about leaving, and also that time in September I felt deeply alone. And that doesn't mean that I hadn't, like, friends or, you know, like, a life, yet I felt alone in my world, you know, alone in also my new way of, not new way, because I think it has in a way always been there, but, you know, the way I see life, the way I like to connect with people, and because I'm such a chameleon, I have always been adapting and being very flexible to my environment and to other people, and in a way, even though I believe I have always been authentic, so, you know, like, if you if I put like 20 or even 50% in a room from work, business, personal life, I don't think they would say. I think Jen remains Jen, you know, like in a sense that I don't think the narrative about myself would change much. However, it's true, I've always been like adapting and not necessarily like putting forward my very sensitive, the very sensitive part of myself, how I see the world, what passionates me, etc., etc. And which is a huge, which, you know, like it becomes bigger and bigger. And for me, like I'm in a state now that for me it's nearly impossible to hide it anymore. So that was, I guess, like started to emerge, and I just wasn't satisfied. I was very frustrated, you know, like knowing that frustration has been an emotion and really running my life. And it's not necessarily like all negative, even though I put double frustration on myself, like, why Jen, are you frustrated? And I was frustrated about being frustrated. But really, frustration is also helping you expand, push, challenge the status quo, challenge things. So it's not necessarily like negative. And just like the other turning point, so I felt deeply alone, knowing that also one of my dream and deep, you know, desire was to have a mentor, and mostly what I needed was not to, because I felt, you know, all my life I always need to do to get something, you know, to make the effort, to do, to give, to, you know, and I really wanted life to give me, or to give me the proof that I could just be and receive. And for the first time in my life, even though, you know, mentors, you don't need to have specific someone physical that you know personally and work with like individually to have a mentor. You can, you know, like definitely love someone online and see that person as a mentor because you're learning loads from that person. But for me, I really wanted to have that one-on-one connection, and mostly having like not paying, not, you know, like just having someone that really wanted to help me, and that happened. So basically I got that big sad, you know, like lone point, and I kind of like had no juice anymore as well, like, you know, because I went from being made redundant, like, you know, like from like so many different experiences that were extraordinary in the corporate place, to then figure out my business, to then launch my business, to then make it, you know, like work. And I said made it, not let it work, which is a difference. And so it was a lot, the worry, the what do I do, the figuring out all from the head. And then I guess I was just like tired, and as well, you know, like just like, so I felt I had no juice anymore. And but look, I'm not, you know, even though I was a bit victimizing myself and like, oh, life show me, and, you know, kind of like, I also knew that I was responsible for my life. I also knew that, you know, the external was a reflection of the internal, knowing as well that sometimes the external takes a bit more time in the physical, even though you're already making the change in your internal. So sometimes you just need a bit of patience. But, you know, like I definitely knew that nothing will fall in my head without, you know, I needed as well me to be responsible and to respond to the situation. So what did I do? I chose to go to a co-working space, which I set up as well, like a partnership with them. And then to make like myself and my business more, like to raise more awareness. And then I start, like and this is also like, you know, synchronicities of life, but basically I signed up for a networking like thing, and that I hated because it was putting me like rules, and I was like, I mean, I didn't start my business to put myself now like in something that I need to do stuff, no? But through that, which was no coincidence, I was introduced to one very important person in my life, and that person introduced me to what would then be a mentor for me. And so I had that start of a tribe, and then with that mentor we started working very specifically on like energy, esoteric teachings, which definitely has been preparing me and has been the natural continuum to that craving, desire, and what my soul needed, and that understanding that, you know, not just like feeling things and like, but having the theory and the teachings that go with it. So for me, it has been like massive turning points in London, and that definitely prepared me for what I'm gonna tell you in my next video, which is the final one, about my journey home. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you do, don't hesitate to put a like. I'm always appreciating them. If you have a comment, if something, a question, or if something, you know, really resonated, or if you want to know more, please do put a comment. And in the meantime of the next video, let it happen. Well, believe in yourself and let it happen.